I transmigrated into the tyrant's favorite concubine. Every day, I mentally review the plot. The female lead pretends to be a palace maid as an undercover agent, and in the end, she kills this dog of a tyrant. Hehe, the tyrant spoke indifferently. Off with her head, me, her. General Wei Yuan has stationed his troops outside the capital. The tyrant emperor's throne is in danger. The tyrant slightly lifted his eyelids. Off with his head, me, oh right. It's been so long since I transmigrated here, but the tyrant has never summoned me to his bedchamber. Is he incapable? The tyrant looked over with a half-smile. Later, he personally demonstrated every single dirty thought in this bookworm's mind. Me, damn tyrant, stop eavesdropping on my inner thoughts. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. It's been 2 months since I came to this world. I've been hiding deep in the palace, never stepping out of the inner chambers, trying my best to keep a low profile, but I was still chosen by the imperial plaque, and tonight I must serve the emperor in his bedchamber. I wore a sorrowful expression, but my maid, Quia, was very excited. The master has been in the palace for 3 months, and finally can serve the emperor tonight. Once tonight passes, the master can be promoted in rank. I forced a strained smile. Promoted in rank. Just being alive is good enough. In this novel I've transmigrated into, the Emperor of Darky is the tyrant male supporting character, who kills without batting an eye, cruel and ruthless, and in the end gets usurped by the male lead, meeting a tragic fate. In the 2 months since I transmigrated, I heard he has executed many people. My heart felt as cold as ashes as I was stripped naked and carried into the tyrant's bedchamber. The tyrant Qi Yangjiang, clad in a black and gold dragon robe, stood before a row of kneeling palace maids and eunuchs. I struggled to wriggle my body, poked my head out, and peered through the beaded curtain at Qi Yangjiang. His eyelids drooped slightly, and a trace of a cruel smile escaped the corner of his lips. Won't talk, then behead them. As soon as the words fell, several guards dragged a eunuch out. Soon, screams came from outside, followed by a return to silence. The remaining palace servants trembled like sieves. I, too, shuddered violently in my warm bedding. In the original plot, the female lead, in order to help the male lead achieve his great cause, infiltrated the tyrant's side, slowly won his heart, and finally delivered the fatal blow. The current situation is that the female lead's message to the male lead has been discovered, and the tyrant is now trying to uncover the spy. I stealthily poked my head out again, my gaze immediately locking onto the fairest and most graceful figure among the palace maids. She was different from the other maids. While the others knelt, she stood quietly beside the tyrant, pouring tea with a suppressed look of anguish in her eyes. That was the female lead, Shen Yuan. I can't help but sigh. As expected of the female lead, she became a personal palace maid just 3 months after entering the palace. Little Pillar never gave her away even until death. Because of this, she hates the tyrant even more. When the male lead successfully usurps the throne later, she personally stabs the tyrant to death for revenge. Hehe, that tyrant deserves it. All he knows is beheading. Beheading, beheading. I was lost in thought. Qi Yangjiang suddenly turned his head, and I unexpectedly met a pair of cold, sharp eyes. A sudden chill ran from the nape of my neck down to my tailbone. I closed my eyes and pretended to faint. Just leave me be. I really don't want to cosplay as Louis XVI. Qi Yanjiang's voice was calm. Someone, execute her. Immediately followed by Shen Yuan's incredulous panic. Your Majesty, what wrong has this servant done? Shen Yuan's voice faded further and further away as she was dragged off, leaving the remaining people trembling like sieves. Cao the eunuch waved his horsetail whisk. Everyone, disperse. The bedchamber fell silent. All I could hear was my own heart pounding like a drum, and the sound of those steady, powerful footsteps, until a shadow came to a halt before the bed. My heart stopped beating. That gaze fell coldly upon my face. I shut my eyes tightly, my mind reeling in shock. I'm done for. What's wrong with this tyrant? He actually beheaded the female lead right off the bat. This doesn't match the original plot. If the male lead finds out the female lead is dead, he's going to go crazy. Is that the main point right now? I need to worry about my own survival first. What if this tyrant decides to chop my head off next? This blanket is wrapped too tightly. I can't move my hands or feet. Completely defenseless, I closed my eyes, and before long, drowsiness washed over me. Dawn broke. I suddenly sat up from the bed and touched my neck. I breathed a sigh of relief. My neck was still there. A head popped up by the bedside. Quia blinked her big eyes. Did you overexert yourself last night, Master? I looked around and realized I was in my own bedchamber. You were carried back in the latter half of the night, Master. Seeing you sleeping so soundly, I didn't dare wake you. I looked down at the thin sleeping robe I was wearing, but noticed nothing else unusual about my appearance. That damned tyrant didn't do anything to me, just had me carried back. How strange. This doesn't seem like his usual character. At that moment, Eunuch Cow entered with a bright yellow imperial edict, smiling. Congratulations, Lady Shia. You've been promoted from talented lady to noble consort. I blinked in confusion. Huh. There's no such character as me in the original book. How did I get promoted? A line of palace maids behind him filed in carrying the awarded items, nearly blinding me with their brilliance. Eunuch Cow continued his congratulations. By the Emperor's decree, after the personal maid was caned to death, no one has served as comfortably as Mistress Shia. Starting today, Lady Shia will move into the Chenin Hall to serve His Majesty closely. I nearly fell off the couch. What? I moved into the tranquil roost pavilion within Chenin Hall. Qi Yangjiang only summoned me when he was reviewing memorials, having me grind ink for him. But strangely, while reviewing the memorials, he would often space out or write the wrong characters. I was terrified that he might suddenly fly into a rage and order another beheading, so I could only grind the ink even more diligently, until both my hands were stained black. You have been by His Majesty's side for over half a month now, Lady Shia. For the Emperor to summon you for a meal is a great blessing. Eunuch Cow smiled, lightly flicking his horsetail whisk. I pouted. If this is such a blessing, why don't you take it yourself? Didn't His Majesty only summon me to grind ink for him before? Why does he want me to dine with him now? Eunuch Cow smiled. Today, the 7th Prince is returning to the capital, so His Majesty has summoned you to accompany him. The 7th Prince? I was stunned for a moment. 7th Prince Qi Yangtian is the male lead in this book. The king invites the world. In the original story, he didn't return to the capital this early. Counting the days, it's been half a month since the female lead was executed. He must have come back because of her. Will the male lead, enraged for his beloved, directly confront the tyrant in a fight to the death? Thinking of this, I couldn't help but tremble. Extremely reluctant, I dawdled my way to the exquisite delicacies pavilion. Just as I stepped over the threshold, a gentle voice rang out. This must be the Lady Shia, the one His Highness has been so fond of lately, right? I froze for a moment, then looked up at Qi Yangtian. The anticipated storm of fury never came. Qi Yangtian, clad in a light cyan robe with his dark hair half loose, sat lazily by the table, picking up a few bites of food. TSK, after being away from the capital for so long, it's this taste of the palace's cuisine I've been missing. Qi Yangjiang responded indifferently with a soft Then eat more, thank you, Imperial brother. Qi Yangtian smiled as if bathed in spring breeze. I stood frozen in place. Is he this happy about his wife dying? Qi Yangjiang lifted his gaze, a casual glance sweeping over. I suddenly felt a chill run down my spine and hurriedly sat down to serve Qi Yangjiang by arranging dishes and pouring wine. Throughout the meal, Qi Yangtian chatted about his interesting experiences and stories from the border regions while eating, and finally set down his wine cup with a smile. As if making casual conversation, I heard that all the people in the Crown Prince's palace have been replaced. The chopsticks in my hand clattered to the floor with a sharp clack. Oh no, I'm done for. The male lead is here to demand an explanation. He wouldn't think I'm in cahoots with that tyrant, would he? I'm completely innocent. Qi Yangjiang shot me a glance. My bad, my bad. I quickly ducked under the table to pick up the chopsticks. Qi Yangjiang remarked casually from the table. They weren't working well, so I had some of them executed. The atmosphere instantly froze. Qi Yantian's hand hung by his knee, right in front of me, clenched tightly into a fist. I nervously swallowed. Qi Yangtian suddenly relaxed his hand and chuckled lightly. Servants who fail in their duties truly deserve to be beheaded. The atmosphere returned to ease. After they chatted for a few more moments, Qi Yangjiang lifted a corner of the tablecloth. My beloved consort, have you been picking up chopsticks for so long? Me, I forgot I was still under the table. I scrambled out from under the table in a flurry, accidentally overturning it in the process. I'm sorry. I turned to steady the table. And the hairpin on my head gave Qi Yangjiang a solid slap across the face. My apologies. I instinctively wanted to kneel, but ended up slamming my knee right onto Qi Yanjiang's dragon-patterned brocade shoes. When knee meets toes in a head-on clash, it's always the toes that end up losing a layer of skin. I touched my own knee, looking at Qi Yanjiang's face that had turned as black as charcoal, and felt that he probably had paranoia. That's even worse. Qi Yangtian sat to the side. His hand still raised in mid-air holding a pair of chopsticks. The floor was a complete mess. He silently stood up. Your humble brother is hungry and will return to his residence first. The air fell into an eerie silence. Eunuch Cao had never witnessed such a scene before and had no idea what to say. His head seemed to be teetering precariously on his neck. I cautiously raised my head. Your Majesty, perhaps I could make you some loofah soup. Eunuch Cao sent some medicine from the Imperial Hospital. Trembling, I applied the ointment to Qi Yangjiang. The side of his face that I had struck with my hairpin was already showing a red mark, starkly visible against his fair skin. As I carefully applied the medicine, I couldn't help but think to myself, please, please, don't let it leave a scar, or this tyrant will surely chop off my head. I have to admit. The force with which I swung that hairpin was no less powerful than the tail of a full-grown Labrador. Hiss, this tyrant's skin is surprisingly nice. So tender, so smooth, so fair. My thoughts were running wild when suddenly my wrist was seized by slender, distinct knuckles. I froze for a moment, then looked up and met Qi Yanjiang's gaze. We were too close. I could almost count each of his distinct eyelashes, short and dense, making his eyes appear even more profound. Had enough of touching. He narrowed his eyes. I snapped back to reality, my heart racing wildly, and quickly pulled back. Enough, enough. In my haste, my foot slipped, and I fell backward. The expected pain never came. When I opened my eyes again, Qi Yanjiang's arm was wrapped around my waist, his other hand cushioning the back of my head, which had struck the corner of the table with a solid thud. I froze, grabbing his collar. Qi Yangjiang, are you okay? Before I could finish, there was a tearing sound. The dark cloud-patterned dragon robe was torn open by me, revealing a broad expanse of his firm, well-defined chest. I stared unblinkingly, unable to resist swallowing hard. This damned tyrant has such flawless skin. I wonder if the rest of his body is just as. Your Majesty, Eunuch Cao entered the door. His voice abruptly stopped, and he immediately turned around. This old servant has nothing to do. I'll roll away first. After saying that, he thoughtfully closed the door. Qi Yanjiang's ear tips flushed slightly. I snapped back to reality and crawled out from under him. I understand, I'll get out too. After saying that, I held my head and scrambled out in a hurry, Eunuch Cao was still standing at the door. I awkwardly pointed inside the room. Remember to apply some medicine for him. After saying that, I made a quick escape. Eunuch Cao remained silent. Your Majesty, is this fierce? Qi Yangtian stayed in the capital. With his residence located not far from the imperial palace, he entered the palace every day as usual to pay his respects and have meals, and everything seemed to have returned to calm, but my heart remained unsettled. Although Qi Yangtian ultimately succeeded in usurping the throne and became a wise ruler, that did not change the fact that he was a prince of profound cunning. The death of the female lead must have hit him hard. When he seeks revenge, it's hard to say whether I'll be implicated. I rested my chin on my hand, torn over whether to seek Qi Yangtian's allegiance. TSK, why is someone already in the pavilion? A flamboyant figure approached. I looked up and saw Consort WN walking over. The summer pavilion in the Imperial Garden offered a delightful view. Consort WN plopped down opposite me, fiddling with the stray hairs by her ear while looking into a small bronze mirror. So you're the Shia Muin who caused His Majesty's disfiguring injury. How come he still allows you to serve him? I uncomfortably cleared my throat lightly. I want to know too. Qi Yangjiang seems to have some masochistic tendencies. Not only did he not have my head chopped off, but he even promoted me again. I'm now a noble consort. Consort WN muttered to herself in frustration. I'm not any less beautiful than you. So why hasn't His Majesty summoned me to serve him? I sneak a glance at her. Consort WN is indeed beautiful. The original book gave very little description of her, only mentioning that she was a consort who loved beauty deeply, and her final fate seemed to be disfigurement followed by suicide. It suddenly occurred to me that her father is General Wei Yuan, who is also a top general under the male lead, Qi Yangtian. The male lead's later usurpation actually had her father's involvement behind it. Better curry some favor. I blinked. Sister WN, I think you're much more beautiful than me. Really? Consort Wan's eyes lit up. Yes, I frowned, beginning to play the victim. Do you think serving by His Majesty's side is some kind of cushy job? His Majesty's moods are unpredictable. I've been living a life of walking on the edge of a knife. Seeing Lady Wan's expression grow increasingly sympathetic, I doubled down and poured out all my grievances. Finally, I sighed with emotion. I'm not like you, Sister WN. You have the general to protect you, but if I make even the slightest misstep, I'll end up like those two palace attendants from Chenan Hall who were. Lady WN seemed lost in thought. Now that you mention it, I do recall hearing that some attendants from Chenan Hall were punished before they were said to be spies. I nodded frantically, rubbing the goosebumps on my arm. But, isn't it just one palace maid? I froze for a moment. One? No, it's two. It's Xiaozhu and the female lead Shen Yuan. The maid Xiong'er by Consort Wan's side interjected. Noble consort, could you be mistaken? My cousin is on duty at the palace gate, and he said that night they only rolled up a straw mat and took it to the mass burial ground. Are you sure? Xiong'er glanced around to make sure no one was nearby, then whispered, I'm absolutely certain. The rumor that came from Chenan Palace earlier was that a young eunuch was the spy. I froze. So, the female lead didn't die. It seems Qi Yangtian doesn't know that the female lead is still alive, and has entered the palace to gather information. But why is the tyrant putting on this act? Where exactly is the female lead, Shen Yuan? In broad daylight, I felt an inexplicable chill run down my spine. Suddenly struck by a thought, I turned to look at Consort WN. Have you mentioned this matter to the general? Why on earth would I tell him about such things? I smiled and said. The Grand General is responsible for defending the nation. It's only right that he be informed about the spy in the palace so he can prepare in advance. Don't you think? Consort WN thought for a moment and replied, that makes sense. I'll write a letter home right away. After Consort WN left, the Imperial Garden returned to its tranquility, with only the occasional chirping of birds breaking the silence. It was only then that I noticed a thin layer of sweat had formed on my palms. During this period, I only remembered Qi Yangjiang as a tyrant who despised life and death, but I forgot that he was an emperor standing at the pinnacle of power and strategy. He was hostile to Qi Yangtian, and this play was nothing but a trap to lure him in. Suddenly, I felt a bit of lingering fear. Truly, he is the ultimate villain. For several days in a row, I dragged Consort WN around the harem. Emperor Qi Yangjiang has very few consorts, aside from the two of us. There are only a few talented ladies who have yet to be summoned. I've searched all the other palaces in the rear court, but I haven't heard of any place where a palace maid is being held. This Qi Yangjiang is quite cautious. Consort Wan's focus is rather strange. You mean, His Majesty hasn't slept with you? I nearly choked on my own saliva and quickly covered her mouth. Keep your voice down. Is this a topic to be proud of? What's the big deal? He hasn't slept with me either. Consort WN said with complete frankness. I thought he just didn't like me, but it turns out he's incapable. That makes sense now. Fortunately, no one was around. Otherwise, if that tyrant heard her treasonous remarks, he wouldn't care whether her father was a general or not. Off with her head. Off with all their heads. I shivered, understanding the dog tyrant's behavior of guarding his purity like jade. In the original book, the dog tyrant indeed did not indulge in romantic affairs. But this major antagonist later fell in love with the resourceful female lead, leading to a story of forced possession and a deeply painful yet passionate romance. There were even readers who felt great sympathy for the major antagonist. I touched my neck. How many heads are enough to feel sorry for? Consort WN sympathetically patted my shoulder. It's been hard on you, seeing but not being able to eat. After chatting idly about daily life for a while without gaining any useful information, I returned to Chenan Palace. Lord Cao was already waiting for me outside the hall early. Noble consort, His Majesty is bathing in the warm springs and has summoned you. Qi Yanjiang's residence was in the Chilong Pavilion of the Chenan Hall, and just beyond the long corridor was the open-air hot spring in the backyard. The water in the hot spring was drawn from the natural hot springs behind the Imperial Palace, warm as spring all year round. While looking around, I couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This damn tyrant really knows how to enjoy life. Then, I met those deep, pool-like eyes. I immediately flattered and trotted over. What does Your Majesty want me to do? Come and massage my back. Qi Yangjiang was half submerged in the hot spring pool, his entire body displaying an unusual pale white complexion. It was covered with scars of various sizes, clearly old wounds from long ago. I was stunned for a moment. In the original story, Qi Yangjiang spent his childhood in the cold palace, where beatings and starvation were common occurrences. So the first thing he did after becoming emperor was to execute those who had once abused him. For a time, the mass burial ground became a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. That's also how he earned the title of tyrant. His feelings were somewhat complicated. I washed my hands and began carefully massaging his back. Are you afraid of me? I swallowed hard. Not at all. How could I be? Ha ha ha, nonsense. Wouldn't you be scared in my place? He cleared his throat lightly. By my side, there's no need to be so frightened. I don't eat people. I nodded obediently. This humble consort understands. Even if he says he doesn't eat people, he still executes them. Absolutely terrifying. Qi Yangjiang. I lowered my head and continued massaging his back. I have to say, the texture of his skin felt quite nice. Though pale, it wasn't the sickly kind of thinness. Upon closer touch, his muscles were lean and firm, with a very pleasant feel. My mind couldn't help but recall Wanfei's bold words. You can look, but you can't have a taste. I couldn't help but swallow my saliva. I wonder how the tyrant's chest and abs feel. Though covered in scars, there's a certain battle-worn beauty to them. Qi Yangjiang suddenly spoke. Xia Muin. What kind of person do you think I am? I blinked. Got it. The tyrant wants to hear flattery. I cleared my throat. Your Majesty is naturally wise and mighty, cruel and unprincipled, brilliant in both civil and military affairs, with extraordinary talent, indulging in extreme luxury and killing people like flies. The common people all say that you will live forever, a true son of heaven, abandoned by all and hated by both heaven and man. After I finished my effusive praise, the air fell into a deathly silence. I blinked. Was my praise not enough? So I cranked it up a notch. Your Majesty, you're also incredibly handsome. Before the words had even finished, my wrist was suddenly pulled into the warm spring by a forceful tug. I let out a startled cry, and amidst the dizzying spin, my back pressed against the pool wall of the warm spring. Meanwhile, Qi Yangjiang, with one hand gripping my waist and the other braced against the pool wall beside my ear, gazed at me with deep, intense eyes, as if trying to see right into the depths of my soul. Have I disappointed you? Then, a thin mist lingered in the air, and my heart was racing uncontrollably. I had to admit, although Qi Yangjiang was a tyrant, he truly inherited the royal family's fine bloodline. It's very beautiful. He was so handsome it felt almost unreal. I couldn't quite grasp his abrupt, out-of-context remark, but the atmosphere had indeed turned somewhat ambiguous. I timidly reminded, Your Majesty, this place isn't suitable for attending the bedchamber, is it? Qi Yanjiang's eyes turned cold as he tossed over a thin blanket. Get cleaned up. Sure enough, I still have to serve the bed. Speak of the devil. I wrapped myself in a blanket and entered the bedroom. But my mind was preoccupied with another matter. There's no trace of Shen Yuan anywhere in the palace. The only place I haven't thoroughly checked is the Tyrant Emperor's bedchamber. But according to the step count measurement, the number of steps in the northwest corner of the Qilong Pavilion doesn't match the outer steps. So there must be a secret chamber. Could Shen Yuan be imprisoned in that place? TSK, that tyrant doesn't favor his concubines. Probably because he's doing unspeakable things to the female lead every day. Whenever I try to think about serious matters, my mind always drifts to dirty thoughts. I patted my own head, trying to shake the dirty thoughts out of my mind, and then met Qi Yanjiang's cool gaze. He had just finished bathing and was only wearing a thin inner garment, faintly revealing the outline of his chest and abdomen. But I still have to say, the female lead isn't really at a loss. Qi Yangjiang frowned. I have never bedded anyone else, not even any chambermaids. I don't understand why he suddenly said this. I nodded repeatedly and began to flatter him. Well, then Your Majesty is quite self-disciplined. Qi Yangjiang. He casually tossed the scroll in his hand aside, and a bronze-colored key inadvertently peeked out from the corner. I was taken aback for a moment. Could this be the key to the secret chamber? Qi Yangjiang, however, seemed not to notice. He stood up, walked over, and pulled me into his arms. Lying down on the couch, I'm tired, let's sleep. The warm bedding enveloped me. I blinked and turned to look at Qi Yangjiang, who had closed his eyes. He seemed genuinely tired, his brow slightly furrowed even with his eyes closed. I understood, so the tyrant really can't do it. Who sleeps under the same quilt purely for rest when a man and a woman are alone together? What a pity for such a handsome face to be impotent. My inner voice abruptly stopped. Qi Yangjiang turned over, his arm wrapping around my waist, pulling me into his embrace. My back instantly pressed against his firm, resilient chest, while the dragon was scorchingly pressed against me. If you keep letting your thoughts run wild, I'll really have you serve me tonight. Me, fine. Pretend I never said anything. But why do I feel like the tyrant dog can hear my thoughts? Late at night, I stealthily got up, while Qi Yangjiang was sleeping soundly, grabbing that brass key. I threw on my cloak and headed to the rockery in the backyard of the Qilong Pavilion. As soon as I opened the secret room, I saw a familiar face, Shen Yuan. There was no torture or daily abuse as I had imagined. Shen Yuan was neatly dressed and looked well, but she frowned warily when she saw me. "Who are you?" I looked around and saw that everything was available, and I couldn't help but sigh. The tyrant actually likes the female lead. This is no secret chamber, it's clearly a paradise for socially anxious people. "I'm here to help you." I got straight to the point, but on one condition: once Qi Yangtian becomes emperor, send me out of the palace and ensure I never have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of my life. Shen Yuan looked at me strangely. "Who exactly are you? How do you know about our affairs?" "You don't need to worry about that. I won't harm you," I said calmly. "The tyrant has imprisoned you here but hasn't hurt you, which means he wants to use you to control Qi Yangtian. I can help you send a message out. Are you really here to help us?" Shen Yuan asked, half believing and half doubting. I nodded. "But I'm only doing this to survive, nothing else." The female lead didn't die. Qi Yangtian returned to the capital. Although some plot details had changed, the overall direction of the story remained the same. The male lead is bound to usurp the throne. And the tyrant will meet a miserable end. When that time comes, my little life will be hard to preserve. "Nuana." A voice filled with both surprise and restraint came from behind. Qi Yangtian jogged over, embraced Shen Yuan tightly, his face full of the joy of having regained what was lost. I was taken aback. "Where did you come from? Is the tyrant's bedchamber some kind of rookie courier station? Can anyone just come and go as they please?" Qi Yangtian looked at me. "Today I hid in the palace. And tonight I saw you acting suspiciously, so I followed you. I never expected you'd actually lead me to Nuana. I promise you, if I ever become the ruler of this world, I will remember your kindness today and ensure your safety for a lifetime." I scratched my head, though the location of the promise was a bit strange. It was good that he agreed. Warmth. "I'll take you away from this den of danger." After saying this, Qi Yangtian picked up Shen Yuan and disappeared from my sight with his lightness skill. Before I could even react, the two figures vanished from sight. They just left. I looked at the brass key in my hand. Wait. This isn't right. If the female lead escapes, the tyrant will definitely think I'm the one who did it. "Yang, are you coming back?" Yang, trembling with fear. I went back to continue sleeping with Qi Yangjiang, but strangely, after discovering the female lead had disappeared, he didn't get angry. Everything went on as usual. He reviewed memorials every day, summoned me to grind ink, and had me accompany him to sleep. His complexion grew better and better, but I withered away day by day. The feeling of having my head hanging on my neck is just too unbearable. "Focus." Qi Yanjiang's magnetic voice sounded beside my ear. I snapped back to attention and continued grinding the ink. However, the way I grind the ink now is different from before. I am encircled in his embrace, his chin resting lazily on my shoulder as he reviews memorials with one hand, and I can feel the true dragon of this son of heaven. Perpetually standing tall and proud, this tyrant has been suppressing his desires for far too long. Mu Yin. If you weren't in the palace, where would you want to go? I don't know why he asked that. But somehow his gaze seemed very earnest. I thought for a moment, the vast desert, the snowy mountains, the Jiangnan region, I'd like to see them all. Qi Yangjiang curled his lips slightly and said gently, "All right, I'll take you to see it in the future." My heart skipped a beat, and an inexplicable emotion began to spread. During this period of daily interaction, I realized he wasn't as ruthless as described in the book. He reduced taxes and corvée labor, promoted scholars from humble backgrounds. Apart from the bloodshed during the palace coup back then, I couldn't think of any other reason why he was called a tyrant. But the story is nearing its end. How could a tyrant have a future? He is about to die. Consort Wan's father has returned to the capital. The mighty Weiyuan army is stationed less than 10 miles from the capital. General Jiyu entered the capital alone, wearing his sword to attend the banquet, before the welcoming feast. Qi Yangtian found me and handed me a porcelain bottle. "Poison," I guessed instantly. Qi Yangtian said calmly, Qi Yangjiang now trusts you and eunuch Cao the most. If you take action, it can be resolved without bloodshed. This is the best outcome. Of course, I won't force you. If you don't act, General Ji Yu will have to lead the troops to attack the capital, and what we'll witness then will be nothing but a river of blood. I clutched the porcelain bottle. Even though I knew this was the inevitable outcome, there was still an indescribable heaviness in my heart. I don't want to harm Qi Yangjiang, even if he is destined to die. Could it not be poison? I tentatively negotiated, or perhaps spare his life. Qi Yangtian frowned. You're still too soft-hearted. If it were Shen Yuan, she wouldn't be like you. Shen Yuan, nonsense. She doesn't like the dog Tyrant, of course. At this thought, I shuddered violently, like at the banquet. Qi Yangjiang sat upright on the dragon throne, while Jiyu Dublin pulled me to sit beside him. General Jiyu raised his chin, holding the imperial wine, and sneered. This humble general only drinks the strong liquor of the borderlands. This little sweet water in the palace, I'm not accustomed to it. I beg your majesty's forgiveness. At the banquet, everyone was aware of Qi Yangtian and General Gu's scheme, and they all held their breath, not daring to make a sound. Qi Yangjiang lifted his eyelids indifferently. Then I suppose General Ji Yu won't have much of an appetite either. Take it away. The palace attendants promptly removed all the food and tea in front of General Ji Yu, leaving his table completely empty. General Gu's expression changed. It's not that I'm trying to stir up trouble, but His Majesty has been exclusively favoring consort Xia recently, completely neglecting my daughter. His Majesty shouldn't show such favoritism in the harem. Producing a royal heir as soon as possible is what truly matters. I lowered my gaze. The atmosphere had become too tense. Gun pouted beside me. All right, using me as a pawn. I turned to look at her. Your father is about to fight with your husband. Aren't you nervous? Gun shrugged. After all, since ancient times, using women as an excuse has always been the way to achieve great things. If my father fails, the emperor will be the first to execute me. If my father succeeds, he will still sacrifice my life to uphold righteousness. I was taken aback. My father, how could he? He would, Gun said with certainty. If the dynasty were to be overthrown, he would not tolerate having a daughter who was the consort of the former tyrant emperor. My fingers curled slightly as I thought of her fate in the book, feeling an indescribable mix of complexity and heartache. Gun smiled at me. Don't be so serious. Let me tell you a new piece of gossip I just heard. You'll definitely be interested. What? Gun whispered. His Majesty has a private troop that has been spread throughout Darky all these years. But, it's only to find someone. I asked in confusion. Find someone? That's what I heard, looking for a woman he met in his childhood. But there hasn't been any trace of her all these years. My heart skipped a beat. A scene from memory flashed by. Gun continued. Perhaps His Majesty is also a man of deep affection. Oh, by the way, speaking of His Majesty, it seems he has become much more emotionally stable during your time serving him. He doesn't execute people as often anymore. I facepalmed. What a strange compliment. General Gu continued his reckless talk. If His Majesty is unfit for the throne, perhaps he should abdicate and let someone more capable take his place. Qi Yangjiang narrowed his eyes slightly. If you can't do it well, then step down and make way for someone more capable. Are you serious about this, General Gu? I muttered to myself in the corner. Isn't that obvious? The Weiyuan army is already stationed outside the capital. Soon, you tyrant, your position will be gone. General Gu raised his chin. I am absolutely serious. Good. Qi Yangjiang waved his hand lightly. Execute him. In an instant, General Gu's head fell to the ground, blood splattering everywhere. Screams erupted all around. A warm hand covered my eyes. It's a bit scary. Don't look. Qi Yangtian stood up in a rage. Qi Yangjiang, have you lost your mind? He is the great general of Weiyuan. How could you execute him without a word? This is outrageous, simply outrageous. He was so enraged he could no longer speak.
He schemed to have the crown prince make mistakes and be demoted, plotted to make the concubine who bullied me miscarry, orchestrated everything, and eventually became the emperor himself. The first thing Qi Yangjiang did after becoming emperor was to carry out a bloody purge of the palace. All those who had humiliated me are dead, only Qi Yangtian, who had once shown him a little kindness, remained. I lowered my gaze. What I thought was a dream turned out not to be a dream. For Qi Yangjiang, it was something that had truly existed. I sat by the edge of the bed, while Qi Yangjiang knelt on the floor, his head gently resting against my knee. So, are you disappointed to see me as I am now? I gently stroked his head, feeling a pang of heartache. When you see me again and find me standing on the opposite side, will you be sad? No, Qi Yangjiang chuckled lightly. I'm just happy that you're alive. Besides, you were only trying to survive. I pursed my lips. Guwn is quite pitiful too. Could you spare her life? Good enough. Then how do you plan to deal with Qi Yangtian and Shen Yuan? The male and female leads are already doomed to fail. It seems the ending of this story has changed. Let them jump around as they please, Qi Yangjiang said casually. They can't stir up any real trouble. I was a bit surprised. I had thought he would eliminate anyone who posed a threat to him. He smiled and said, "Didn't you say it? You wanted me to be a wise and virtuous ruler, so I'm trying my best." I smiled along with him. Qi Yangjiang really looked quite handsome when he smiled. As I looked at him, I suddenly realized that the little Qi Yangjiang had grown up so much. No wonder he hasn't summoned me to attend the bedchamber until now, so it's because he sees me as a mother figure. One must not defile what is sacred. Qi Yangjiang's eyes darkened as he pressed closer. Xia Muin, I've told you before, no thoughts in that head of yours. I blinked in confusion. What's wrong? I didn't say it out loud. You can still hear me. Yes, I can hear you, me. Qi Yangjiang raised an eyebrow slightly and pulled down the bed curtain. My beloved consort has been thinking for so long. Shouldn't I put it into practice physically? Me, her, it's daytime now. Oh, just being foolish for a moment. I wanted to send Guwn out of the palace to a paradise where she could live freely and unrestrained. She straight up called me heartless. I'm not going. Where else could I find conditions as good as in the palace? My delicate face requires a fortune to maintain, and I don't like anyone else. I only enjoy spending time with you. Don't even think about kicking me out of the palace. Me, fine then. Later, she took a fancy to the court painter one moment, and the next, she was captivated by the newly appointed scholar. She always dragged me along to cover for her. As for Qi Yangtian and Shen Yuan, after all their long-term scheming, everything went up in smoke, and they began to act a bit crazed. Qi Yangtian had a dragon throne built in his own residence, and every day he would talk to himself in front of it. Brother, if you can sit in this wheelchair, why can't I? No, the dragon throne, if you can sit on it. Brother, why can't I? That's not right either. Shen Yuan felt utterly embarrassed, wanting to escape but unable to, because she had been bestowed in marriage. Qi Yangjiang turned a blind eye to it all. Deserts, snowy mountains, and the Jiangnan region all had palaces and retreats built there. After the court affairs were properly arranged, he took me out of the palace under the pretext of inspecting various regions. In reality, he was taking me on a tour of scenic spots, but truth be told, while enjoying ourselves, he never hesitated to deal with corrupt officials along the way. Qi Yangjiang, this tyrant, showed no mercy. Chopped them off, all of them. Me, alright, aside from his fondness for beheading. He's still a decent ruler, but his thoughts and energy haven't diminished in the slightest, all focused on me, like a wolf or a tiger, yet he could still hear my inner thoughts, acting out all the indecent fantasies in this great scholar's mind. My back ached, and my whole body felt weak and sore. Furious, I threw a pillow at him. You tyrant, stop eavesdropping on my thoughts.